Welcome to this episode of Harvey County Talk. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley. Our guest on the program today is Daniela Rivas, who is the new Newton City Manager. How are you doing today, Daniela?
I'm doing great.
Good,
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on the program. It's always nice to be able to have people that are in public service, that are doing a rock star job, or I believe going to do a rock star job for our community, and just get to know who you are. A lot of people might not have the ability to sit down with the city manager and have a conversation like you and I are going to have today. And it's very nice, and it's been well received with people in the community. They like to know who's doing what job, and you have a pretty important job. Yeah, pretty important job.
I would say so.
Yeah, and so Newton is a wonderful place. It's my home. I love Newton. I love Harvey County. And I'm always watchful. Anybody that knows me knows that I've been there to run a couple times to try to help and affect change in the community. And to tell you the truth, a city manager or a city administrator position is not necessarily the easiest job in the world.
Sure.
It takes somebody that's very intelligent. It takes somebody that has a good education, and I would just like to say that as a watchful eye in the community of what the city is doing, I think that they knocked it out of the park when they hired you.
Oh, you're very kind.
Yeah. So I haven't had a chance to really sit down and talk with you about your life and where you came from and kind of what brought you here. So really that's where we're going to go with this conversation. Okay. And I guess the first question to ask is, well, where do you hail from? Where did you born and grow up?
Sure. I was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas.
Okay.
So I'm a lifelong Kansan. My parents migrated here in the late 70s, early 80s from a small town called Tepatitlán de Morelos, Jalisco.
Okay.
It's a state of Jalisco near Guadalajara.
Okay.
They set roots here and had their family in Wichita. Actually, my dad's first job was here in Newton. He was given an opportunity to start making some money so that he could buy a house, and my uncle also worked here at La Tapatía, and he eventually opened his own restaurant, which is Acapulco Restaurant. So I grew up in the summers here, spending time with my cousins, just going to the pool, helping out at the restaurant, Dragon Main Street, going to Sonic.
Yes, awesome.
I got to do those things here. And so Newton has always been a special place for me. Okay. It was kind of home away from home. And I got to get a taste of what small city is like. Wichita is a lot different. We can ride our bikes everywhere. We can do the things we could here. Yeah. So I graduated high school, went to college, and decided to enter public service by accident. I was offered a job at Sedgwick County, and through mentorships, I got to know what city management was all about. So it piqued my interest, and I said, I want to do that. Okay. So I actually went back to WSU, got my master's in public administration, and then that's my path started through public service. So I went from Sedgwick County to Winfield to Park City, Kansas to Columbus, Kansas, which is a small town in southeast Kansas, beautiful small town in Cherokee County. Columbus, Kansas to McPherson, Kansas, and now I'm at the city of Newton.
Okay, so I want to walk you back a little bit because something I always like to know just to get a feel of kind of who a person is at the core. You said you went to high school, right? But
yes. But
did you do any like extracurricular activities in high school? Yeah. Did you like to do band, or were you a sports person? I mean, volleyball. Sure. What did you enjoy doing while at high school as an extracurricular activity?
I think that the seed was planted very early in my life, and it was through probably civic engagement and volunteerism. I was an athlete. It's hard to believe, but I was. And I was very engaged in lots of extracurriculars, like Scholars Bowl and debate and Science Olympiad, all that jazz. But through my church. So I grew up in the parochial system in Wichita, and if I wasn't at school, I was at church. And whether it was volunteering with kids or cleaning the church or selling enchiladas, whatever it may be, we spent every minute of our time there. And, as a teenager, it was like, ugh, again, that. But as I grew older, I realized how much that gave to me. I got more out of that than we gave to the church. So I think that's how that seed got planted. I like the feeling of making a difference and not getting anything out of it, just giving of time and
serving your fellow human.
yes, and it felt good. And that's what my parents taught us, especially my father. He said, the more you give, the more you'll give back.
Yeah.
So I think that's what planted that seed of public service is probably the right path for me.
Yeah. So you went to college, right?
Yep.
And then you might have said it. I know that you mentioned the Shockers. Go Shockers, right?
Go Shocks.
But did you do your bachelor's at Wichita State as well? And
I
then
did.
What did you do it in?
So that's kind of what planted the seed of me going to Sedgwick County. I graduated with with my bachelor's in finance.
Okay.
Emphasis in accounting. So I was looking for a job in accounting. So I applied to all the typical places, your Koch, your Cargill, anyone who'd hire a staff accountant. Yeah. A friend of the family's was in line at a Dillon's and said, "Hey, we're hiring at Sedgwick County. They're hiring an accountant." I said, "That's what I graduate. That's what I'm looking for."
For me, yeah.
Whole different world, public service than private.
Yes.
So I go and I apply, and I take this little test, a 10 questionnaire, of public finance, which I knew nothing about. Yeah. The woman who interviewed me, her name was Ann Smarsh, and she said, so 2 things, good news, bad news. The bad news is you got every question wrong.
Oh, no.
Every question. She said, everything that you learned in college, it's the opposite.
Yeah, because bonds and all that stuff and star bond. Yeah.
The good news is I'm hiring you because I think you'd be a great fit here, and I see the drive, and you'll learn. So she gave me a chance.
So then you worked at Sedgwick County.
I did.
And then from there, in your job, it is a lot of math. Yeah. I mean, I know it's a lot of math. And granted, there are times in which you have like a public finance director or finance director, which we do here. We have a rock star person that is right there to help aid you in doing a good job in every way. So you said that. What was it? And just give me a point in time when you had looked up, I guess, and said, having been in this situation and doing public finance for this entity, then I think I want to pursue higher education to be able to do more when it comes to serving. I call it my fellow human, because really you're in the service situation. And so what was it that happened that clicked for you? And you said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to school, because that's not easy, right? Especially as an adult. And then to just continue on your path forward that way.
When I was at Sedgwick County, I was a staff accountant. In a cubicle doing the same thing every day, which was good for me at the time. I was having children. I just got married, all that jazz. Sedgwick County did a wonderful thing. They partnered middle level positions, and actually anybody who'd be interested, specifically in my office, which was accounting and finance. They partnered you with a mentor, and that mentor is sort of the driving force behind pushing me to do more.
Okay.
Because I was capable of doing more. And so this woman by the name of Leslie Ninest, who has a consulting firm in Wichita, does this analysis of this is who you are, this is your communication style, this is kind of what you're destined to be, here it is, take it or leave it. And so she sat down with me. Actually, I remember she's walking into the office, and she kind of throws down these results and says, "Daniela, what are you doing here?" I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be out and about, showing your face to people, helping the community, making decisions, because you're a great decision maker. And even though you like numbers and you're good at numbers, you're not sharing your craft and what you're good at." And so I kind of took that to heart, and I still remember her name. I still remember that day. And from that day on, I think, okay, what am I going to do to do what I want to do? And so that mentorship program allowed me to look into the city manager's office at Sedgwick County. Bill Buchanan was the city manager at the time, and I got to see him in action. And it was incredible to see him go from, department to department and have these robust conversations about what Sedgwick County was struggling with, what they were doing well. And he just, it's like he was gliding. He would walk in, say some things, and everybody would be like, "Oh, yes." And then he'd go to the next department meeting, and he knew enough to really affect the conversation and then go on to the next. And I thought, I can do this.
Yes.
Like, this is what I want to do.
Effective leadership.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what led me to go back to school after some discussions. Hey, how could I get to where you're at?
Yeah.
Well, an MPA might help you. An MBA may help with that. Moving into a leadership role, which would help you manage people and learn all that jazz. And then do whatever you need to do to get into a city manager position, which for me in Kansas meant moving to Southeast Kansas for an opportunity because they were willing to give me one.
Well, and so, okay, I did the MPA program at Wichita State.
Yeah.
Like I said, go Shocks.
Yes.
Maybe I'm partial, but I think they have one of the best programs in the state of Kansas.
They do.
Nothing against you Jayhawkers or K-Staters or anything like that.
Yeah.
But, excuse me. But, that's a huge commitment. And I'll tell you, as an adult with children going back to school and earning that level of a degree is no easy process at all. And I just got to say, my hat's off to you. It really is. My hat's off to you because I could only imagine just being in a different role in my home, maybe that you were, and just having to just get through that is very difficult. I mean, that takes a lot of fortitude to accomplish that, I'll just say. With that being said, knowing that once you were armed with that degree and you were going to hit the ground running, you had to move. That means, you got kids and a husband and all that stuff. So you're having to uproot your family and go to a foreign place. When you were looking for a job, and I'm sure you didn't take the first one that came your way. So just kind of walk me through how that felt and looked, or maybe what were some of the emotions that you were experiencing during that time? Because I know it had to be weighing on your heart and your mind. I got to move my kids, school change, community change, and then I'm going to go into a position where, I'm the one responsible for everything that's going on in this community. That's got to be heavy.
Yeah, it is. It is. But it's very fruitful and it's very satisfying. When I moved to Southeast Kansas, that was a big change. Southeast Kansas is different than the Wichita area. Yeah. And so I had to, not only was I the newbie, trying to assimilate into a community that I wasn't familiar with. Yeah. My kids had gone to a private school for a long time and had the same friends they did when they were in kindergarten. Now they were being put into a different school. And at the same time, jumping into an organization and saying, hey, I'm going to be leading you, even though I don't know you, even though I don't know this community. That was really tough. But that's where my passion comes in. I really enjoy getting to know people and building those relationships, because once I built those relationships and proved to them, hey, I can do this, and with your trust and with your help, we can move forward together, then it was easy. Although COVID did hit in when I was in Southeast Kansas, that was a whole nother, that was really tough, but I had great department heads. And I think that's what makes a great city manager, is the people beside you. Yeah. Because they're the ones who do the heavy lifting. Yeah. You just get to be the face. And although your leadership is important, and although your knowledge is important, you guide, they do all the work. Yeah. So I had a great team in Southeast Kansas.
Just an offshoot of a question. Do you believe that the best style of leadership is to empower those people in which you are blessed with facilitating?
Yes. And at the same time, I would say that showing them that they already have the power, not necessarily empowering. Hey, you have the power. Do it. Do it. Good call. Because most of them already do. It's almost saying, hey, it's like mom and dad. Mom's over here if you need anything. If you need anything, I'm right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the mom in me.
Yeah. And I know that, I'm a watchful person, and I'm always watching leadership styles and types, and I know that I have seen, and not necessarily in Newton or anything, but just being in a similar situation as you have, looking out and comparing what I know my education teaches me, my leadership style that I choose to incorporate, and then watching what I would consider other leaders at times being in a role or a situation in which they want to and I'm not going to call it micromanage, but not empower. I mean, and I know that's not the right word that we said that, you had mentioned they already have the abilities, and you're just there to facilitate them to be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of your job as a leader, right?
Right.
So your COVID, I mean, that's unbelievable for anybody. Let's just say that we all walked through that. I think we're all still reeling from that. I don't even remember how many years ago it is now, but feels like it was yesterday. Right. So you navigated that appropriately, right? To come out and be, better. I believe your community is better on the after that than before. Let's say. I mean, many of us learned a lot about ourselves, and even in our public life, what responsibilities were ours. To be able to try to nurture and help people. So not to run you through every single place or position that you were in from that to the last place you were. But when I heard you were coming from McPherson, I even said this publicly, I do know some people in McPherson. And so I said, hey, what do you think of, Daniela? What do you think was that, you like, I ask people what you think. What does the public think of me, But I mean, I'm just here to tell you that it was good.
Really?
It was good. People knew who you were in McPherson. They were blessed to have you. Sad to lose you. And you remember chuckling at him and saying, "Well, your loss is our gain," type of thing. But talking about coming to Newton. Newton is a little bit different. McPherson's comparable, right, as far as administration.
Smaller.
But coming to Newton and then making the decision to apply and then run through that whole process, a gauntlet of sorts, to be the one that's picked. Just kind of walk me through that. You applied, and then when you did have some familiarity with Newton in the past, but what was that like coming back to Newton and knowing these were the streets that you played on when you were growing up, and then there's a possibility that I might wind up being the city administrator here?
Yeah. It was actually a very easy decision. McPherson is a great community, and actually they were going through transition, and I was interim city administrator there before I came here, with an opportunity to potentially take that top position. When this position came open, it's almost this circle of, wow, this is where my parents started off. This is where the U.S. gave my family opportunity. So, and I'd have an opportunity to lead this community, and it just, it really, I mean, it was a no-brainer. So that's why I applied. And now being here, I'm like, okay, it's been 4 months only. It feels longer, but it's been 4 months, and I fit in. When I started, it was like, okay, there's going to be a honeymoon period. Things might be a little bit easier, but I've just full force head on.
Yes.
And it's been good.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say, for anybody listening, we have some amazing people that work at the city. I've gotten to know so many of you individuals, and I'm just here to tell you that, you talk about your honeymoon period. I mean, and just not to interject myself here, but imagine standing up and running for office in a community and everybody, and there's like, who is this guy and what is he, and even then, I had some missteps along the way. Yeah. And the grace that people showed me, city staff nurtured me, they mentored me, commissioners mentored me, and my overall experience with the people that, you work with was just very good. I mean, good is a understatement, but just to say that I honestly, and I'm telling all you folks, I could not be where I'm at today if you didn't show me patience, love, and kindness along the way.
Great. Wonderful. That's great to hear.
You have a great staff. As a super citizen, if you want to look at it that way, very blessed that these individuals are the ones that are in the care of my community. Yeah. And then we just added you, which is like an icing on the cake, and I'm just very excited to see you grow and be able to just continue to pick up the baton where, somebody gave it to you and run this race. And I would just say, in my own personal opinion, I'm very thankful that you chose to come back to Newton. And I didn't know the history on that before you had mentioned it, that you were, I mean, you migrated here, your family did.
Yeah.
They got their start here in Newton.
They did.
Then that led to, you being, in Wichita, going to college,
Right.
I mean, it's just an amazing deal.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So to take a little bit of a side road here, what some of the things that I ask leaders in the community is I guess there's some open-ended questions. You wouldn't call them challenging questions or anything, but just to leave a couple open-ended questions your way is, what do you think is one of the best things that Newton has to offer from your perspective?
I think the people. I know I've only been here 4 months, but we have some incredible champions of Newton, people who are dedicated to the city and what it stands for, and from their upbringing, from family they know here, from their businesses that they have here. We have great small businesses in town. We have great industry. Just everything about Newton and the people about it. That's what I would say is the commodity here.
Yeah. And then, we have had on administrative levels some difficult times in Newton, right? The past is, I mean, we've done this a little bit here and there, and you're coming to Newton at a time in which we're really firing on all cylinders. And when we talk about growth and business and expectations and economic development, just kind of give me your feel on I mean, once again, open-ended, but knowing that you've been here for a few months now and you've really been able to get the full in-depth grasp of everything that's going on, what are some more, or I guess, what is something that you would consider at an administrative level or the city level in your occupation, some awesome positive things that we as Newtonians can look forward to in the future?
Okay. The first item that comes to mind is housing. We need more housing, not necessarily low income, not necessarily, super high income, kind of middle of the road, bring your family and make Newton your home type of home. The housing, the issue with the housing is, with inflation, it's very difficult to build a house and make money off of it. So you have to build a lot of houses. Well, if you're going to build a lot of houses, you want to make profit in as much as you can. So people are either building something that will make a lot of money and has perhaps state or federal type of funding attached to it, or they'll make these huge houses that they can make a larger profit. So these middle of the road houses we're not seeing being built, and that's what we want. We want these homes. Believe it or not, your average home is now in the 250 to 350, that 100,000 range, and that's what people want. It's what we're lacking. So I'm hoping that a more diverse housing option comes to Newton. We see it already; it's happening. I hope it's sustained. The second item is balancing economic development with the resident in town. I think there's mixed feelings about how big we want to get and the incentives we give to people who come, because it's on the backs of residents. And I think that balance is very important, because you don't want development just for development. You want more of a strategic plan of who comes into your town. And so I think that balance and making sure that it is part of a plan, instead of, hey, if you come, we'll give you everything.
Yeah.
Making sure that when someone does show interest in us, that we take a step back and say, hey, is this part of the plan? Will this help us get to where we're going? Yeah. That's important. To succession planning, public service is a tough job. It's not for the weak, and we see less and less people entering public service. So replacing these very knowledgeable people that we have in our organization is going to be very difficult. Something that's definitely on my mind, because we we have people who've been with the city for a long time who know, the ins and outs of it. And it's going to be a struggle to fill those positions. Public trust is a mix of things, but it includes, you get the public trust when you have knowledgeable, able people who are running the city. So it goes hand in hand. What else? Those are the things that come to mind. I mentioned public trust. I know that public trust has been dwindling over the last 10 to 20 years, especially post-COVID, and that I believe it's affecting, it's having an impact on the effectiveness of our institution, and it needs to go the other way. We need to have that public trust in order to facilitate and do the good decision making that we need to do at the policy level. But we can't do that if people continue to question and say, that's a lie, or you're not doing the best, you're not being a good public steward of our funds, you're wasteful spending. And so it's our jobs, it's my job, and it's our staff's jobs to communicate what it is that we're doing, so that we lay it out on the table and that we are transparent and say, we're not hiding anything. We're doing what's best for our community. I live in this community. Well, I'm closing on a house. I will be living in this community.
We got a transplant. Yes. So knowing that you could live, now that's not a requirement of your job, I don't think, is it?
It is now. Actually,
okay.
They shifted it.
So the city commission maybe decided that if you're going to be that was something that people in the past had mentioned, was, we want our people that are working in our city, and making the rules. I mean, I hate to say that, but making decisions based upon what my life is going to look like, whether it be down to a sidewalk redo or a light goes here or there, or, when you're looking at it from the perspective of a citizen, one of the things that I know was mentioned multiple times was it would be really nice to have a city manager that lived locally.
Sure.
And so you love Newton so much, you're just going to call it home, I see.
During the hiring of a city manager, there's a contract in place, and the contract spells out the terms of that time period. Okay. The city commission felt very strongly when I was offered the job that I should live in the community, which I will tell you right now, I've been in local government for almost 20 years. The benefits of living in the community are beyond measure. I mean, your kids get to be in the same schools that of the community that you're serving. You get to go grocery shopping and you see the people that you're serving. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Now, I didn't mind moving here, although local government, there's almost this narrative that because public servants and city managers are hard to find, that the flexibility of allowing a city manager to live wherever it is that they want should be looked upon. But having the experience that I have and knowing the value of living in a community, it was just a given. So
we've covered a lot of ground on the program, and I normally like to ask, what good things, right, first you see in the future of Newton, or what are some of the best qualities that we have, and but I also like to ask the counter to that, and just to not to go negative, but to bring a little bit up about maybe what you've learned so far or over the last few months that you've been here. What do you think some of the biggest challenges that we face for the future of Newton?
Sure. Some of the struggles that Newton, I think, has had for a while now, and as we grow, these might become more prominent in the future years, are housing at all levels, whether it's low income, middle income, or high level. We have big industry coming to Newton in the next 3 to 5 years. And so we're going to need houses, and the speed at which those houses are being built may not be quick enough. And we want to capture those people working here. We want people to work here, live here, and play here. So housing is at the top. The second, economic development, making sure that we're balancing economic development with everything that the city is doing. We don't want to go too fast. We don't want to go too slow. So that growth has to be very strategic, and that has a lot of moving parts and a lot of staff, residents, business owners. It's a continuous process. So that's perhaps a struggle, but also an opportunity. Yeah. Also infrastructure within our city, whether it's streets, utilities, buildings. Everything is aging, and the rate of inflation and the rate of income to help offset some of these costs are not on the same level.
Yes.
So balancing that to make sure we're keeping up, but at the same time we're being equitable with our residents is going to be a little tough.
Yeah.
So.
I know that in the past, when there was a commission race, that was one of the things that was really discussed was we do have an aging community, and I don't mean populace. I mean just the knowledge that, well, Newton's been around for quite a while.
Sure.
And so when you talk about that core infrastructure, like, you know, pipes to bring the water to you, pipes to take the water away, and capital improvement plans and stuff like that. And then balancing that with, well, nobody wants their taxes to go up or anything like that. Do you see the possibility of all of this new, these new businesses that are coming and what we're seeing as far as economic development really going to be something over the next couple years where Newtonians are going to be able to take a breath?
So there's a two-part answer to that. Because our economic development has been huge projects so far, they've been really big. Commission has been very willing to provide some incentives, and that incentives delay some of the fruit that we see of those big companies. Yeah. So in the short term, I would say indirectly, yes. I mean, the sales tax, the people working here, the people who are going to temporarily be living here, the companies that will come because these big industries are coming. So there's this indirect effect that I can't really put a number to, but I think that's going to be amazing. Secondly, when these tax abatements are up, which they do end at a period of time, that return and an investment will come to us and we will see the fruit. So I think perhaps maybe not in the near future, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. It's a long game, and I think most people understand that.
Okay. Just another question. You said a key word, incentives and tax abatements.
Sure.
And I just got to say, for a lot of people, that does get confusing.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will just make the comment, well, this company's coming here and they're not going to pay any taxes. That's not necessarily correct.
True.
So just to pick your brain a little bit in your education and being in this field for many years, how important is it for communities to offer incentives to companies who'd like to come and look at calling Newton home?
Sure. I think today, I would say it's very important. Companies are looking at, what can you offer me so that I can come to your community? And it's become almost a game we have to play, depending on what our strategy is. What's our comprehensive plan? And is that development in our plan? I think if we're taking into consideration that strategic growth as part of the bigger picture, and we're not just willy-nilly giving out incentives, which a lot of people do think we do, there's so much thought behind bringing in a company. For example, this GAF, from what I understand, was a 10-year process.
Been a minute.
Yes. Lots of calculations, lots of staff time. It wasn't just, here you go, come. I wish I had a number of man hours in the due diligence that was done before they came to ensure that we at least break even with them, which is not the case. There is a return on investment that is above 1, which means we will see a lot of fruit of that company coming here. So I just want people to know that there is a process, and we have amazing staff who make sure that we are making informed decisions when we present those to our commission.
Yeah. And then that goes back to trust.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about trust and trust in government. Another question that I had was how important do you believe culture is to a community? So when I say that, let me clarify. We talk about toxic culture. A toxic culture would be, individuals, and I'm not pointing fingers, that would go out onto social media or whatever platform they have and say, we have a horrible community and we have all these problems and we have all these issues, as though all communities don't have certain issues. And it just seems to me, in my opinion, not putting words in your mouth, but just it creates this toxic culture in which people, instead of focusing on the good things that we have, they want to focus on maybe some struggles that we have and not even give opportunity for improvement. So with that being said, how important is a positive culture?
I think culture is everything. it's one of the reasons why I came to the city of Newton. The people that I know are big champions of Newton, and since I was young, they championed everything that Newton was about, whether it's the local restaurants or the fiestas or the softball tournaments. All of those things brought me here, and I think it's important that we sustain that culture and even improve it. At the city level, I think we can improve that culture through various ways. The first would be to make sure that the public trust is there and that we sustain and foster that trust through many facets, keeping an engaged community, being transparent, having educated staff, which is the second item. I would say that we have to be appropriately staffed and have educated staff that know what they're doing. I think if people know that, hey, Bob at the city has been there for 10 years, he's really good at what he does and we can trust him. I think that's important. Yeah. The third is having inspired leadership, making sure that our leaders are leading from their heart and from their mind, but being engaged, being compassionate, and being empathetic to what's going on in our community. So those three things, I think, will help sustain the amazing culture in Newton.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of culture in Newton and Newton being amazing and champions and leadership, and I got to say, I'm a fan of Newton. Yeah. I think that, once again, I may have already said it, but that Newton, the commission made a really good decision when they hired you. I believe that you're the right person for the job, and I see and have said this many, many times that the sun is just rising on our community for many reasons. So anybody that knows anything about what I've said recently, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that. So I've always been, and people know me as really focused on the future of Newton.
Sure.
So, in your opinion, just I know you've been around Newton for many years. I know that you came here gladly to be able to be part of what is going on here and to be a leader in our community. My question is to you: what do you think the future of Newton looks like?
It looks pretty great. I think that one of my favorite quotes is Winston Churchill. We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. And the people of Newton give. They give their time, they give their talent, they give their treasure. And I think that's what makes this community amazing. So if we can sustain that through celebrating our wins and through that culture, I think Newton has endless possibilities. And I'm excited about that.
Very good. Very good. All right. We're coming to the end, Daniela, and I appreciate you braving it to come out here and be on the program. Sure. So the last question that I ask anybody that comes on the program, doesn't matter who, what, when, or where, or how, or why, is just kind of something that I really enjoy doing because it speaks to the heart of a person. I give everybody that comes out on the program, every guest, the last chance or the last word to speak directly to the hearts and the minds of anybody listening.
I'd like to say two things. One, I'd like to thank the City Commission, our city staff, business owners and residents who have given me the opportunity to be here today. I am excited and very blessed to be here, and I want them to know that I'm going to give it all I got to make sure that we move Newton into the next chapter. Secondly, I'd like to say, come see us, come talk to us. We are trying to meet people where they're at. But please don't be afraid to come to City Hall. I'm on the third floor, but I will meet you anywhere, and I'll have a conversation with you about what it is that you think might make Newton a better community. Third of all, stay tuned. Newton has a lot of great things coming.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Daniela.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out on the program. It's never easy for anybody doing it, I promise you. And I just really appreciate the vision that you have. I appreciate your heart and who you are. I'll say it again. I think that we scored big time in Newton, and to know that, well, the future of our community is in good hands.
Thank you, Lance.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Well, there you have it, folks, and thanks for listening to this episode of Harvey County Talk. Our guest on the program was Daneila Rivas, who is the new Newton City Manager, and we'll catch you next time, everybody.